Hi, today we are going to learn how to add login and registration pop-ups with invitation codes. CM registration allows your users to log in and register to your site via a beautiful pop-up. Additionally, the admin can create invitation codes that, when used, register a user with a certain user role. In this example use case guide will cover how to allow users to register and log into your site via pop-up and links. The pop-up is a core part of the plugin. It allows users to register and/or log in to your site. How to show the pop-up? By default, the plugin will display the pop-up on all pages to non-logged-in users. First option: enable or disable it on each page. Edit a page, and if the plugin is activated, you will see the CM registration authentication meta box. Choose yes, and non-logged-in users will see the pop-up. Second option: add in registration or login link. To add a link anywhere on your site, use the CSS class CMReg login click and add it to a link in your site navigation. Let's see the result on the screen. Third option: shortcodes. Similarly to the previous option, you can add the link anywhere by using certain shortcodes. For instance, CMReg login will show the login button. So let's start configuring our plugin. Navigate to the admin dashboard, CM Registration Pro Settings. The first tab is General tab. Authentication pop-up window. What forms will the pop-up contain? You can choose between login, register, or login and register. Allow users to close the pop-up. If enabled, the user will be able to close the pop-up via the button. API keys. Here you need to enter API keys to enable reCAPTCHA. Use reCAPTCHA v2 keys only. Using reCAPTCHA v3 keys may lock you out of your website. Click on the Register New reCAPTCHA key button to be directed to the Google page for generating new API keys and follow instructions. Redirect after logout to URL address. Choose what page opens up for users after they log out. Log out after inactivity time. If a site user doesn't do anything on the site for a defined amount of time, they are automatically logged out. Reload browser after logout. If the user has been logged out, the plugin will automatically refresh the browser. This can be good for security reasons if a user has stepped away from a computer and forgotten to log out, leaving private information on the screen. Overlay background opacity. The opacity of the login dialog box overlay background. Preload login form overlay. If enabled, the login form will be preloaded on the page load. Disable this option if you experience performance issues. Display form fields label, show or hide. Next tab is login. Users can already register and log in, so now let's customize the experience. From here, it's possible to fully or partially restrict access to the website. Global site access. Choose between site accessible to everyone or site accessible to logged-in users. Custom redirect URL. If you restrict access to guest logged out users, they will be redirected to this address. Exclude the following URLs. Add exceptions if needed. Separate them by lines. Redirect after login to URL address. Specifies where the user will be redirected to after successfully logging in. You can use these parameters inside the URL. Enable the Remember Me option. Allows the plugin to identify the site user in the future so that they don't have to go through login again. Log user last login date. Stores the moment when every user logged in for the last time. Enable the lost password form. Adds the option for site visitors to attempt to recover their password if they have forgotten it. Login using field. Choose whether the user should use their email address, login, or both to log in. Social login. It is also possible to allow users to register and log in to the site using their Facebook or Google accounts. This streamlines both the registration and login process for users and customers and makes them much more likely to sign up to your site and use it. You can enable the relevant options for login and registration and to display the buttons. And to make it work, you need to enter App ID and App Secret for Facebook and Google. Limit login attempts. It adds a layer of security for when users try to log in with wrong credentials too many times in a row. Next tab is registration. Registration is a core part of the plugin. Allow user to enter his login. Allows user to make a custom login username rather than automatically assigning one to them based on the email address they use. Allow users to enter a publicly displayed name. Allows users to customize the name that displays beside their comments and posts rather than the default of displaying their email address. Require email. The email field will be obligatory. Require to repeat email. Forces the user to repeat the email. This setting is useful to prevent the user from mistakenly writing the wrong address. Notify admin about new registration. Toggles whether or not the site admin will receive notification emails for new registrations. Ask for invitation code. You can require or disable an invitation code or make it optional when a user registers. If the user does not have an invitation code and it is required, he will not be able to register. When it is optional, you may want to use it in case the invitation code is used to assign a specific user role. Next step is invitations. Here you can specify the URL with registration page, limit allowed invitations per user, and enable auto pop-up window. You can customize the subject and body of email notification for sending the invitation code. You can also show or hide display an invitation code for users in the dashboard and while editing profile. Next step is email. Email notifications are essential, so don't forget to configure them. You can enable or disable and configure automatic emails for different situations for the admin and for your users. You can customize subjects and bodies of these notifications using HTML and placeholders. Next tab is Custom CSS. Here you can conveniently place your custom CSS styles to change the layout of the front-end plugin elements. Next tab is Labels. You can change the text of the front-end to anything you like. Note that if you use custom fields, you manipulate their labels directly while editing them. This way they will not appear in the Labels tab. When you've finished configuring the settings, don't forget to click the button Save to save the changes. Now it's time to configure and improve the form with custom fields. Navigate to CM Registration Pro, Profile Fields. Custom fields are a way to enrich the registration page people will use to sign up to your website. Drag the desired input fields from the list on the right into the area on the left. Custom input fields will appear below the default input fields on the registration form. There is a selection of different input fields available to choose from to control the type of data being entered by users. Each of these input types has its own configuration specific to them. There are also settings that are common to every field and affect the general behavior of the form. You can change label, set your own user meta key, set the field as required, restrict the fields to definite roles, define it to show the field in the registration form or not, and decide if to show the field in user profile. It's possible to hide or display fields based on certain conditions. For example, if the user chooses user type Premium User, the field with the plan appear. You can add one logical condition to either a required field or an optional field. In both cases, the first option will hide the desired fields, and the second option will display all. If there are 3 or more options, they will also display all fields. You must add certain text to the CSS class of the relevant fields when editing them in the Profile Fields page. First, edit the fields that will affect the conditions. Add Hide Show optional to the CSS class. Then edit the CSS class of the fields that will be affected. But don't make affected fields required. Add Hide to the CSS class. At the end of configuring the form, of course, you need to save the changes by clicking the relevant button. Next step is creating and managing invitation codes. To create an invitation code, go to Invitation Codes in the plugin dashboard. Here you will see a list of all invitation codes created. Date created, expiration date, user limit. You can also manage invitation codes from here. To add a new verification code, click on the Add Invitation Code. Here you can add it. Title. Add the name of the code. Code. Click the Generate New button to instantly generate a randomized 12 characters code. You can either type a code yourself. The plugin is flexible and accepts virtually any value. Expiration date. After this date, the invitation code cannot be used. Users limit. The number of times this invitation code can be used. Require email verification. Choose whether to require email verification or not, or follow global plugin settings. Required to use the following email. This feature lets you restrict the usage of a specific invitation code to a specific users, so users cannot send the invitation code to someone else. If an email address is set, the plugin will send an email with the invitation code to the user as soon as it is created. User role. Admin can choose which WordPress role will be set for a user that registered with a specific invitation code. Custom redirection URL. Write here URL for redirection after login for users that used this code, or leave it empty to follow global settings. And don't forget to click the Save button to save the invitation code. Let's see the result on the screen. Following instructions found in the plugin and guides, you should be able to add the configurable pop-ups to your site, including an invitation codes field. Thanks for watching the video.